Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the Cold Fusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Modernize or Die CFML News Edition podcast. I am Eric Peterson, a senior developer with Ortus Solutions, and I am your host today. Flying solo, we have some people out having fun for this holiday weekend here in the United States. So, without any further ado, let's jump into some of our news. Before that, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Ortus Solutions. Ortus Solutions is your favorite makers of all things box. You can give back by liking and sharing this video on YouTube, following us on CFCasts with either a free or paid account, or by checking out some of our books like 102 Cold Box, Quick Tips and Tricks over on Gumroad. And additionally, we'd like to thank our Patreon supporters. We are currently at 39 Patreon supporters, which is amazing. And that's, I think, if my math is right, and Gavin can correct me next week, 90% of the funding for this podcast. So that's pretty amazing. Thank you all that support us there, or in any of the other ways supporting Ortus Solutions. Okay. So, the news. Biggest news item I think this week was Lucee 5.3.8 was released. This was a very long release, months in the making, which is kind of funny for a kind of a patch release. I think it went from 5.3.7 to 5.3.8, even though there's a bunch of new features, so I don't know. Maybe we can all believe this is 5.4 in our hearts. But there is some great work in here. We will have the link in the show notes to the announcement post as well as here in the chat. But some highlights that I wanted to bring up because I thought they were fun. First off, this has a bunch of work on improving the performance of query of queries that Mr. Brad Wood put in for us. So that is here in Lucee 5.3.8. There's some compatibility with Adobe 2021, including all the new array methods like shift, unshift, push, pop, splice, the ones that you might be familiar with from JavaScript land. And then my personal, I don't know if it's favorite, but at least one that I've very much wanted, struct value array is now a function that's available. Which this was one of those funny functions that was only available in OpenBlueDragon, and now it's in Lucee 5.3.8. So that's just a small smattering of the tickets. This has been a great release cycle. Again, check out their tickets on their release blog post. We've also been told that this will be the last release of Lucee 5 as far as new features are concerned. They are full steam ahead on Lucee 6 now. So, especially if you have some ideas or tickets in there that were breaking changes, now's the time to go make sure those get surfaced for this next major release of Lucee that's being worked on now. Next, we have a webinar tomorrow. We're going to get it in the last day of June here. Ortus is doing a webinar. In fact, I am doing the webinar. It is going to be Build a Blog in 30 Minutes with Quick. That is tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central. You can sign up at ortussolutions.com/events/webinars, or if you just get to the event site, you'll click around and get there. But this is going to be a great intro to Quick, which is a cold box ORM engine, interacting with your database, seeing what it can give you and why you might want to use it. And yeah, this will be a great intro to that. If you like this, then you'll be able to go jump into the up and coming workshop for Quick that it will be on CFCasts. So I hope to see you all there tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central. And if you do miss it, we will have it up on CFCasts, just like all our other webinars, for free. Speaking of CFCasts, this last couple weeks, we've had some videos released in our object-oriented programming with Nolan Irk. Just this last week, we have an intro to DI, or dependency injection, behavioral patterns, and structural patterns. So this is going over kind of your design patterns, ways, strategies to architect your code to solve certain problems. So it's really neat to see these in CFML. I know I first learned them looking at Java code, so it's kind of fun to see it in a language I use every day. And fun thing, these videos now have captions, which makes me very happy. I'm the kind of person who watches everything with captions, and these videos are no different. So you can go ahead and turn the captions on over on this series. The first 4 are free, and we hope you enjoy that. We'll have more this week coming in the same series: clean code, code smells, and intro to refactoring. So that is at cfcast.com. If you like the free videos that you see there, please sign up for a paid account. We'd love to have your support. That way we release new videos every week on CFCasts. Okay, let's jump into conferences. In last week, we did not have one of our podcasts because it was the Adobe Cold Fusion Developers Week. It was a 3-day conference, 2 tracks. I think a total of, do math quick, like 24 talks? I'm probably wrong on that. But obviously with 2 tracks, you probably missed some. And so I'm excited for Adobe to get these videos turned around and provided to us that we can watch on our own time. Thank you to all those who put on the conference, all the speakers who prepared, all the people behind the scenes. It was a great online conference, and I'm hoping that our next Adobe Developer Conference can be in person. Speaking of in-person conferences, Into the Box 2021 will be live in Houston. So that will be September 23rd and 24th. We have our call for speakers open, and we will have that in the show notes and here in the chat. And you can sign up for an super early bird ticket, I believe we called it. Right now on intothebox.org, it is $299 for the 2 days. And that will go up the closer we get to the event. So please submit your topics. We'd love to have you talking at our conference, and we are excited to see you there. And for those of you who can't make it for various reasons, we completely understand, and we will be recording these videos. It won't be streamed live, but they will be available after for CFCast subscribers, or a way to purchase it yourself individually, just purchasing these videos. Okay, and of course, if you're starved for conferences, which some of you might be, you can go to comps.tech, and search all sorts of different conferences, including CFML conferences. Alrighty. Blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. We have just a few. I think all of everybody's efforts went into the Adobe Developers Week, which makes perfect sense, and it was a great event. But I only have a few blog posts to go over now, so we'll go over quick. This is going to be maybe a record quick podcast. Not a lot of news and not a lot of banter between guests. I can only banter with myself so much. So the first blog post we'll talk about is from Mr. Ben Nadal, talking about generating a color swatch with Lucee and Graphics Magic. So Graphics Magic is a command line tool Does a lot with images, but in this case he's using it to generate a solid color from a hex value and then embed in the little bottom left hand corner the hex value itself onto the image. So he goes through it. I think it's fun to see and be reminded that not everything has to be done in Cold Fusion. There's this great command line tool. You can write a little wrapper around it in your code and pass it along. And we shouldn't be afraid of doing those things. Use the right tool for the right job, as they say. So we will throw that into the show notes. Again, that's generating color swatches with graphics magic. And next from Mr. Nadal as well was talking about the OWASP, OWASP Java HTML Sanitizer. So the OWASP is a project about web security. And this particular one was brought up at the Adobe Cold Fusion Developer Conference when Charlie Earhart mentioned that the anti-SAMI project was added to Cold Fusion 11 as part of the engine. And that made Ben want to go look up some of the work he had done before about an HTML sanitizer. So this is a way to say you're getting in HTML and you want to sanitize it, make sure it fits your requirements. This library and the Java library backing it lets you define a policy to let things through. By default, everything's blocked, but you can say certain elements are let through, and on link tags, certain URL schemes are let through, and things like that. So you can let through good content, strip out all the rest of it. It's a good thing to remember, even just that adage that anything coming from the user needs to be treated as untrusted until proven otherwise. So you can check that out. You can also check out the code that he uses for that. One day we'll get that up on ForgeBox, right, Ben? Right, Ben? Right? So go ahead and check that out about the OWASP Java HTML sanitizer. We have a couple of blog posts that I lumped together from Mr. Adam Cameron, showing some differences between, maybe not differences, showing the same code in both tag and script. Some of the examples that Adam has been doing lately have focused on what you might call like higher order functions or functional programming using things like map and reduce to transform collections. And some people had asked what would be the tag equivalent, and so he very graciously provided those. I think if you asked me to rewrite some of my code in tag, I'd just go, I don't think so. I don't really care to. So we have a couple examples that he has up on his blog. It can be interesting to see, and especially if you aren't using any of these like map, reduce, uh, any of these functional programming methods, this can give you kind of the analog. So you can look at the tag, see the loops that are going through it and how it's doing that, and map that to the functional methods. So we'll put both those in the show notes and over here in our chat. Lastly, and this one was just for fun because I definitely feel this way sometimes. I have a tweet here from Terry Beard. Let me switch over to my local screen, maybe? Yes. Talking about how deserialized JSON in Cold Fusion 2018 was taking his foo true to foo yes when you'd go back and forth. And when he asks anybody have experience with this, I think a lot of us just take a heavy sigh and say yes, we do. Unfortunately, very common. Not a lot you can do in the Adobe engines. And all I can say is thank you, Lucee, for having a better implementation that doesn't do this to us. So I thought we could commiserate together for a minute, I guess is what I was getting to. So thanks for giving us this opportunity, Terry. And I'm sorry we don't have any better um, advice for you on this. Okay, believe it or not, that is the blog post I have for this week. I told you this was going to be a record. Let's talk about finding a job. Over on getcfmljobs.com, there are over 143 positions from 65 companies across 99 locations, including 3 new jobs listed this week. All full-time Cold Fusion developers, 2 in Maharashtra, India, and 1 in Wichita, Kansas. Additionally, Ortus is still looking for awesome Cold Fusion developers to join our team. 1 here in the US, or rather, they can work in the US and have US time zone overlapping, and 1 on our El Salvador team. You can check those out at ortussolutions.com/about-us/careers. We'd love to have all you wonderful, smart, talented people on our team. On to the ForgeBox module of the week. We're going to revisit one that had an update this week. Small update, but a nice quality of life anyway. We're going to talk about cbauth. So cbauth just got an update this last week to introduce a new interception point. So right now with cbauth, you could already listen to things like pre-authentication and post-authentication, pre-login, post-login, and now there is one for onInvalidCredentials. So when somebody tries to log in but fails, you can now listen to that. We had a client that wanted to log all attempts to log into their system to analyze them for anything nefarious going on, and so we added that interception point. Just a reminder that cbauth is a protocol-based wrapper to give you authentication in the ColdBox app. It lets you, no matter what your backing store is, be it LDAP, a database, Auth0, it lets you interact with it in your CFML code, in your handlers the same way. So you can find it in a few of our templates too, and get started right away, like the Quick with Auth template. And no matter what your authentication system is, you can have that power cbauth and then have that consistent API across all of your applications. And for our VS Code hint tips and tricks of the week, I chose an interesting one. Let me get it up on my screen and share. So GitHub just announced a technical preview of GitHub Copilot. This uses the OpenAI to generate code snippets for you. Let me replay this on the screen. But somebody added a comment. They added a function for is positive and what it should return. And then this Copilot suggests the code, in this case TypeScript, could be JavaScript, the code to get that using an HTTP request and returning it. Pretty crazy. It says it understands a dozen languages. I'd be surprised if Cold Fusion's one of them, but then again, being AI, it might not need to be, programmed for a specific language. In any case, it can understand JavaScript and TypeScript, which most of us deal with as well. You can sign up for it. It's free here in the technical preview. And just kind of, I don't know. I think it's just fun to play and see what AI can do for us now and see what's useful. So, if you do use this, I'd love to hear back from you about how it goes, especially if there's some funny implementations. So, yeah, that's called Copilot, GitHub Copilot. It's available now. You can go sign up at copilot.github.com. Okay, I promised you a quick show, and I think we're delivering. We are here at the end, ready to thank all of our wonderful Patreon supporters. If you are interested in supporting us on Patreon, you can find us at patreon.com/Ortus Solutions. Anybody who supports at the bronze package or up receives a complimentary ForgeBox Pro and CFCasts subscription as a perk. You have a awesome little badge on the Ortus community website, and you have access to a private forum on that same community. And now I'd like to read off the names of those who are our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much to Don Bellamy, Eric Hoffman, David Bellinger, Gary Knight, Giancarlo Gomez, Jonathan Perrette, Mario Rodriguez, Jeffrey McGee with Sunstar Media, John Wilson with Synaptrix, Yogesh Mathur, Joseph Lamery, Ben Nadal, Brett DeLine, Carl Von Stetten, Charlie Earhart, Dan Card, Daniel Garcia, Didier Lesnicki, Edgardo Cabezas, Jan Yannick, Jason Diger, Jeff McLean, Jeremy Adams, Jonas Eriksson, Jordan Clark, Kai Koenig, Laxma Titrahadi, Leon Saramelis, Matthew Darby, Matthew Clemente, Mingo Hagen, Patrick Flynn, Ross Phillips, Scott Steinbeck, Stephanie Monge, Stephen Klotz, and Dean Monder. Thank you so much for all of you for supporting Ortus Solutions and supporting this podcast. We will be back next week after the July 4th weekend here in the United States, and we will be back with 2 hosts instead of just me. Thanks for bearing with us, and have a great day.
Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernizeordie.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.